at the first ever PTM show, the Performance Tuning and Modified event. The reason why we're here is to look at the first round of the HKS Drag Series. All your favourite Japanese performance cars, gunning it out for real in a proper drag racing championship. We're going to be looking at the Pro class, the Street class and the front wheel drive class this weekend. Well, the HKS Drag Series will be made up of 4 championship rounds, and as part of those individual rounds there will be 3 qualifying sessions, and then the racers come together in a proper drag style elimination. Tony Charles there in the Fensport number 2 car. The Celica's been making plenty of power. Oh dear, looks like he's just done some damage. A lot of these drivers are used to coming out and just gunning for a fantastic ET. There aren't too many of them that are used to cutting a good light and actually reading a race as it progresses. It's Adrian Smith here from Fensport in the Corolla, amongst those that have raced in the Pro Series in the past at the Jap Show, but it looks like issues for him on this run. Here's Tim Webster, and along with Keith Cowie from Scotland, one of the first drivers to run 8s in Europe in a jet-powered machine. The thing is, so many of our teams have really ramped up the power over the winter. It looks like we're going to see quite a few more breaking into the 8s this season. And there's no mistaking D. Ireland's machine. It makes plenty of power, but it looks like the axle's moving around a bit there. And in fact, that looks like the tyre has moved over in the body. Here's Simon Norris, another man who's had a few issues, mainly with gearboxes. Oh no, it's happened again.
I think we've broken the gearbox. Broke one yesterday, replaced last night 11 o'clock, and just broke it again.
Why is this happening?
I'm not entirely sure. I think too much grip off the line, too much torque. We turned the power down a lot in first gear to try and stop it happening, but we've still had a rogue failure just then, so pretty frustrated to say the least.
It sounds like you're out for this weekend. Have you got any upgrades you can do to actually make it a bit stronger?
This is the second gearbox I've tried. The first one I broke, that's it, away for repair. This is the second one, and we've just broken that as well. So I'm going to have a rethink drivetrain wise. The engine's been going for 2 years now with no problems, but the drivetrain keeps falling out of it, so it's not very successful when you're trying to go fast.
We launched and the car felt a little bit light on the back end and started knocking, and we realised we broke the rear diff. So just busy changing, putting another one in. We've brought a spare with us.
And what about the other car?
We think it's gear linkage on that one. So we're not having much luck this morning, but we bought plenty of spares. So.
There's Wesley King in the left-hand lane in the red Civic, and he's up against Scott Whitelaw, and Scott is planning some big changes to that machine. Paul Jones in the Fitex backed machine from TDI North. He is another man to watch out for through the season. Thanks for the 11, 19. In the white machine, it is Johnny McEwen in the endless backed Skyline, and it looks like Tony Charles has had more damages. It's a good job that he's brought so many spares along. Johnny's on a bit of a flyer there, runs through an 11.0. Well, our crew just having a quick word with Tony to see just how bad it is. It's a super quick machine then, very quick through the 60 foot, seemed to bog a little in second. Wow, Tim Webster really pushing the power through at the top end of the track, running through with an 897 at 161 miles an hour. D is back out on track, so whatever the issue was that he had has been resolved. We'll have to see if we can catch up with him in a little while to find out exactly what the problem was with the car. Steve Geary nails it off the line, but D obviously just making sure that everything's holding together on the back end of his machine, and it certainly is. He's put his foot down now, and the MPH building up massively at the top end of the track. Well, comparing the timing tickets and entering that into the laptop, there's the man himself, busy with the spanners.
Tim, first of all, what have you done over the winter to the car?
Not much. Just put fresh tyres on it last week. Same tyres again, Mickey Thompson ET Drag Slicks, and carbon fibre prop shaft supplied by Torqueline CTG. That's it really.
We haven't seen it, but yesterday you ran an 8.3 apparently. Any explanations of how that's gone so much faster?
Well, it was the 60-foot time was 1.09, which is knocked like 0.4 of a second off my previous 60-foot on the 8.8 run last year. So it does tally up. If the 60-foot was 1.09, the problem is that it was just 1.09 is so good, it's almost unbelievable. But I'm hoping to back it up today.
So it could just be that you've hit the actual combination for getting the car off the line then?
Yeah, I think the fresh rubber, the carbon prop shaft, the newly relayed surface here at Santa Pod, and the right launch, just obviously hit it off quite well.
The opposition seems to be falling to bits at the moment in terms of breakages. You obviously must have a fairly good chance for this elimination.
Yeah, it's usually the case. There's usually a lot of breakages through the day, but fortunately, touch wood, this has been okay up to now. It's not highly stressed and it runs 1.8 bar a boost, which is very low for this sort of class.
We are obviously looking at the first event of a series. How do you think you're going to do over the whole season?
Hopefully it should be reliable. Like I said, we're just running reasonably low boost. I think the car that will win the series will be the most reliable car and not particularly the fastest.
And here we have our qualifying list in the 3 classes. The most important thing to remember is this is the first event of the season. Nobody getting anywhere near their hottest tunes yet, but we've got some really good times already this early on in the season. In number 1 place in the HKS Pro class, unsurprisingly, is Tim Webster. And in the street class, Johnny McEwen takes first place with a 10.49. And in the front wheel drive, it's Paul Jones from TDI North Limited, a man we've not seen at Santa Pod really before, with an 11.70, and Scott Whitelaw in second place. As our drivers make their way through from the pits, it will be the front wheel drive class that we look at first, and in our first round it's Paul Jones on a well-deserved bye run, being our number 1 qualifier. All he has to do is stage to go through, but he does choose to go all the way down the track. Next up, it's Scott Whitelaw against Peter Cattell. Well, they really are very close. Can Peter catch up? I don't think so. It's Whitelaw that takes the win. Wesley King faces off against Guy Chamberlain. Not in the car you'd expect to see him in. He's already broken his number 2 car. Number 1 car, the race car, not ready for this meeting. The one he brought along, unfortunately, broke the gearbox on. And it's Wesley who takes the win there. And Guy, well, he's really not used to coming that far behind. We move on to our street class next then. Adrian Smith, a man with an awful lot of experience of pounding up the Santa Pod quarter mile, up against Johnny McEwen in the Endless Machine, a very keen and talented amateur, but been elevated to the HKS Drag Series now. And fortunately for him, it was another breakage for Adrian Smith. Well, he does well there with a 10.95. Well, this is Steve Mann.
Trick wasn't going to work either. Steve Mann.
Somebody else who was real keen, run what you brung her. He should have been up against Tony Charles, but sadly Tony didn't make it to the line.
I got to see Tim Webster running with his road suit on. This will be funny. Come on, boys.
This is James Wilday over there in the RX-7. Totally abandoned his Renault GT5 racing career. He's up against Grenard. And it looks like issues for the Skyline, and is the RX that takes the win.
706 miles an hour, but he's not bothered because he's made it through.
Well, somebody else in a spare car is Ross Juniper. The RX-7 we would expect, but this pink machine is the stand-in wagon. Steve Geary powering on through again in that Subaru. He's been putting in some impressive laps this weekend. Runs through with another 9 and 9.98. Side-by-side Supras, side-by-side static burnouts.
Okay, here we go then. It's the battle of the 2.3.
Plenty of smoke from both machines. It's Leon who comes forwards to the pre-stage first, but oh dear. Well, it's all academic now. There's no sign of Leon. D takes the automatic win, regardless of the relatively slow ET of 10.31.
Maybe he was trying the fence board trick too. Well, no, the power came in on the top.
As our number one qualifier, Tim Webster, takes the bye that was available with the ladder. Remember, all he has to do is break the beams, but he's taking it as another opportunity to squeeze every ounce of power out of it. Runs through with a 9.04.
So Ross, we've seen you in a new car. What's the story behind what's happening?
Basically, the car ain't ready, but the HKS Drag Series is 4 different events, and you get points for each one. So if I hadn't turned up, we'd have lost 100 points. So we just came along in another car just to get the points, and then next time we're going to be out in our proper car, and that's loads of new stuff on it. So it's just taking longer to build than planned.
What sort of performance are we looking for with the new car?
But it's got the roll cage and stuff. It's set up to 7.5 seconds. We got a proper transmission, everything in it now. So yeah, we'll have to see.
D, you had some problems first run. What happened?
Well, basically we gave it a big launch and it bent the panhard rod on the back axle. Don't really know why. I think just too much power going through and good grip. So managed to go away to John Webster's workshop, make a new one, fit it, and now we're keeping going. Lots of other problems over and above, but we're still in it. So.
And the next problem has got to be the opposition for the semi-final.
Yep, that'll be a hard one, but you never know. Anything can happen.
Are you happy with the way the car's running now?
Not at all. We've had nothing but trouble all day. Everything that we've touched went wrong. All little daft things, but they all cause you problems. So hopefully, I think we've got round them all now. Hopefully this will be do or die, as they say.
You're quite a time off your best from last year, aren't you, I think?
Oh, we're miles off. We're nearly a second off what we can normally do. But we've never done a full run on full power yet. I think I've had first and second gear each run, and we're still doing 10.2s. So, you know, it's if we can get full power in all 4 gears, then we might have half a chance.
Second round of eliminations then. Front wheel drive time. It's Wesley King facing off against that rapid little machine of TDI North. Paul Jones at the wheel. Well, not much in it on the start line, but it looked like Wesley did the right thing and got away sooner. Look at the power coming in the TDI North car. He's got it all sewn up at the top end. Scott Whitelaw with the bye. You can see the traditional drag style of machine reversed here with the very skinny rear wheels and the slicks on the front. We're into the street class then. Steve Mann, remember, didn't have to face off against Tony Chance because he didn't make it to the line. James Wilday is neck and neck with the Skyline. Looks like Steve Mann's just got the edge at the top end. Takes it by a car's length.
With 11.61, gave away 0.4 of a second. The quicker car loses because the driver...
Well, here is Johnny McEwen then.
Straight through to the final. All he has to do is break the line.
All these drivers taking every opportunity to get down the track. It's so early on in the season. They want that track time and it rewards him with a 10.90. So here's one of our first major battles. Tim Webster up against D. Ireland. On paper, it's all going the Skyline way, but that Supra has been making huge improvements recently. Well, I guess this is one for the form book then. Tim Webster taking the easy win at the top end.
8.65.
Oh, and a nice ET too, 8.65. Steve Geary, that suspension looks quite hard on that machine, but it seems to hook and go well. And that puts him through to the final.
So, Steve, you must be delighted to be here in the final.
Yeah, it's only third time out of the car, third time out for me, so we're still on the shakedown, but we're getting there, slowly but surely.
There's a few interesting technical aspects of this car, transmission for instance.
Yeah, it's auto, which has got a manual shift in it, so I can manually shift it, but it's still an automatic gearbox with a trans brake, so I can launch quite hard off the line.
What sort of times do you hope the car's going to get down to ultimately?
In the 8s, oh yeah, in the 8s. We ran a 9.4 off the trailer, and then we've run out of nitrous since then, which we've now resolved, so hopefully we'll do a bit better this time.
This is just nitrous for spooling up the turbos, yeah, obviously, not nitrous on the main run.
No, although we will run it on the main run eventually, but it's a matter of doing a run, getting it okay, and then...
And I hear it runs on the street with no problem.
Yeah, oh yeah, I've ran it in on the street. I've probably done 1,500, 2,000 miles on the street. So it is a street car. We'll take the exhaust off, and then it's a street car with different tyres, but yeah, it's a street car. MOT, taxed.
Any plans against Tim?
It's early days for me. I've only been doing it 3 months, so I'll try, but give me a bit of chance. We're going to have a bigger turbo next year, so we'll see how we go with that. But all good fun, just enjoying it at the minute really. I'll get there hopefully.
So last minute preparations for all of our teams as they prepare themselves for the finals. And here's the classic face-off then between TDI North and CPL. Two top tuners in the Civic world. It's Paul Jones who slightly lags from the start line. Scott Whitelaw is out in front. It looks like Paul's making a big top end charge. Oh, he's nearly got him. How's it going to be at the top? What a fantastic driving job. Takes the win literally in the last few metres. On to our street class then. And it's Johnny McEwen up against Steve Mann. Well, something's being said to Steve. Oh no, looks like he's dropping fluids. The start line crew tell him to go away. Oh dear, what a shame for him. Johnny McEwen then, the automatic winner. And I think halfway down the track he thought I might as well squeeze the throttle. It looked like he was going to take it nice and steady. Runs through with an 11.69. Geary's been doing fantastically well in the Subaru. But I bet he's thinking, I've got no hope here. He's going to be praying for a red light from Tim Webster or maybe a breakage. He's been running consistent 9.7s and 9.8s. Oh no, there is a red light, but it's on the wrong side. The man in the scuba you can see out in front just tried a bit too hard. Big fat cherry on the tree, knocks himself out of competition, and it's Tim Webster who takes the win. Did he have issues on that run or did he see the red light? Really doesn't matter, this is drag racing, and he's taken the win. Caught up with our winner in the first ever running of the HKS Drag Series front wheel drive class, and that is Paul Jones. Paul, we've got to start off with, I've just been given a heads up that you get into the track even this morning. It was a bit of an ordeal. What happened?
Yeah, yesterday during testing we burnt the clutch a little bit, so we couldn't pull away at all. So we drove back to Warrington last night, stripped the car down, put a new clutch in, finished about 5:30 and then drove back down here this morning.
This is Warrington, Cheshire, Lancashire sort of area.
That's where our company's based.
So you've worked all night. Have you had any sleep at all?
No, none at all.
Plenty of Red Bull?
Lots of Red Bull, a bit too much to be honest.
Now you'll probably have the same caffeine hangover that I'm going to get then. So the race in itself, how did you cope with it?
Yeah, very well. This is the first time I ran a Santa Pod. It's a little bit different than I expected, but the track was really good. We struggled for a bit of grip. We were bogging down on the start line due to my inexperience on the track, I think, really. But yeah, it was a brilliant event.
Well, that's good news. And are you planning to run the whole championship?
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully later on this year we'll be back with a bigger engine and more power to really break into the tens.
So you're the current front-wheel drive record at the moment is actually owned by a Golf, and it ran a 1066 only last weekend here at Santapod. Realistic you might hit that this year, or is that going to have to wait till next year?
I think definitely this year. The standard engine we've got in the car is only a 2.4 stock internals with a turbo on, and we're already at 410 brake horsepower. The kit we're going to put on is a 2.6 stroker kit with a bigger turbo, and from the dyno results we've seen in the States, we can expect 8 to 850 brake horsepower without nitrous. So that's our plan, to really go for it in the UK. Show the Americans a thing or two, hopefully.
Fighting talk, that is what we like to hear. So not only has he taken the first round, but it's looking like he's going to gun for the European record as well come the end of the season. Thanks a lot, Paul. Okay, we're catching up now with the winner in street, Johnny McKeown, who's come all the way from Ireland this weekend. And also, I think we'd better start off with a special shout. I believe RK himself was assisting you this weekend.
Yeah, we had some problems all day yesterday, and Ron stayed all day to help me. And he mapped the car on Wednesday, just before the event. It did 1,009 brake horsepower, so shout out to Ron, he's the best.
Well, it's good stuff, and of course we see Ron Cadell stickers on a few cars, but you've come all the way from Ireland. You do most of your racing over there. Have you been to Santapod before?
No, there's really no places, good events in Ireland. There's only one, and it's not really suitable, so all my events will be in Santapod.
And so how have you found doing drag racing properly under drag racing rules for the first time, rather than just run what you brung? Have you enjoyed the extra thrill of the competition?
Oh yeah, pretty nerve-wracking, because this is my first car to do drag racing in as well, so I'm pretty new to it, and a lot of learning to be done. But yeah, pretty good. Very well organised event as well. Great crack, yeah.
Well, it's good to know that he's enjoyed himself. Lots to learn, he says. First time he's been drag racing properly under real rules, and he's taken the win. We better watch out for this young man in the future. So that's how the HKS Drag Series looks after round one, and most unusually in terms of drag racing, this list of the winners and runners-up is exactly the same as the qualifying list in all three classes. Very unusual, and sets things up nicely for round two. So it's the Jap Show, and we're going to have a look around the pits and then some of the runs taking place on the Saturday, the test and tune for the Jap Show itself. The rumours become reality. This is Steve Whittaker's amazing new ride. You may remember him from the DJ Craig Sports Cars Red Supra. Something more interesting to play with now, and speaking of which, it looks like D Ireland's got a real handle on his machine now. And here it is again, with backing from Excess Power. This Supra is one heck of a bit of kit. Just a few checkout passes for him. Do not be fooled, this thing is going to be amazingly quick. What's this all about? Huge new wheels and the wheelie bars you can see there on the back end of Ross Juniper's Dragon car. Look at the wheelie, the RX-7 is absolute lunacy. And then it rained. And it rained. And it rained. There was no track action at all on the Sunday, despite the best efforts of the Santapod crew. We're back at Santapod for round 3 of the HKS Drag Racing Series. Round 2 at the Jap Show, complete washout. Race day itself, we had rain and no action at all. We're looking forward to a very exciting session here at Road to Stock. We've got all sorts of new cars coming out and people with some big tunes in their cars. We're going to be looking for personal bests, possibly European ET records, but best of all, we're going to be looking for sunshine. Rotorstock 4. It's an event run by the Mazda Rotary Club, and whilst originally it was all about the Mazda rotary engine machines, pretty much from number 2 they started asking and inviting lots of other Jap cars along. This is the first year the event's been run at Santa Pod, and it's with great pleasure that they welcome on board the HKS Drag Series. Well, our drivers in the street class are getting ready for their first qualifying session, but already heading towards the start line is the front-wheel drive crew. See Peter Cattell trying to get a timing ticket of his own, and he's up against Wesley King there. A little bit of competition in qualifying never does any harm. It looks like Scott Whitelaw's found himself a pretty good tune on his very first outing. Paul Jones struggling a little there. There's the governor, Guy Chamberlain, up against the new man, Ian Page. First session of street qualifying starts, and a bit more confusion. This is Robert McKeown. And not at all related, this is Johnny McKeown. Now it might look like the track is wet, but I can tell you the shiny bits are down to the virgin glue, and the centre of each lane, which we call the groove, where most of the cars run, has got that slightly matte look to it, and that's where the tyres have already gripped down on the virgin glue. This is Simon Holmes from Fusion Motorsport. This little Pulsar's been really raising some eyebrows during this first session. There's your man Adrian Smith from Fen Sport, hoping that his drive-line's going to hold together. Well, things looking pretty good on this first trip out. And a very confident burnout for Steve Whittaker. Now fully stickered up. And speaking of confident burnouts, Steve Whittaker has the advantage, running with the Powerglide transmission, of having a trans brake, and that means when he lets go of that button with his thumb, the car can instantly launch. And oh, that was so close to the 8 that Dee so desperately wants. A huge great burnout there for Leon Green, and he's up against Simon Norris. Will his gearbox hold together? Oh, unbelievable! Sadly, Norris has busted yet more driveline components, but it looks like a good clean run through there for Leon. First time out this weekend. Well, the crew all looking underneath, making sure there's no fluids leaking out. So as the cars get towed back down to the pits, that session proved, as usual, a few machines running real quick and some breakages, but it's time to catch up with Simon Norris. You can see his car being loaded up here and find out exactly what happened. Well, Norris is back on the trailer again. This is gutting news. Simon, I know that you've had many gearbox issues, and Santa Pod is the place that seems to eat things on there, but you've got a box that should be able to take the oomph that you're putting through it now. What's the problem? What's happened?
Well, same thing again. We've been here 3 times now. Twice it's been a gearbox, once it's been a transfer box. We brought all the spares we had apart from the gearbox because it takes too long to change. I've got Hollinger back at the workshop, which is a lot stronger than the one we've got, evidently. Unfortunately, I didn't have that in for today, but I'll have to get that back in and come up and do some testing, maybe a run what you've run day. But bitterly disappointing because it's a long journey up here, and to not even get a time is terrible. Just braking on the line 3 times in a row is a little frustrating, to say the least.
Now, the other box, the Hollinger, is that a drag specific one, and the one you're using in here is more time attack? Do you swap boxes between the two disciplines?
No, generally we just, the car's completely standard spec for everything, and we just change the wheels and tyres. You don't do anything, don't do suspension geometry, you don't do anything at all. This is just a box that's UK supplied that I thought I'd give a go. I did 10 of the best with it. I've done a couple of track days with it and it's been fine, but obviously the gears just aren't strong enough when you bring the clutch up at 7,000 RPM with slicks and the new grippy surface from Santa Pod. So,
well, we're hoping that you've got the Hollinger box in there and you can keep all the gears where they should be when it comes through to the Jap Show finale, the last round of the HKS Drag Series.
Yep.
Have you any idea what number this car will run, if you can even get off the start line?
Yeah, well, I think ideally we found a little bit more power from it recently, about 4 or 5 degrees more ignition. I think it'll pull 165 terminal, which any seasoned drag racer will tell you what ET it will be able to do from that. So I think 8.5 it will run if I can get it off the line without breaking it or indeed getting the traction that we need. So, but it's all pie in the sky until you actually post a time and then back it up. So that will happen. It's just when it's going to happen and how many hundreds of miles I have to do prior to actually achieving that goal. So, but it's all good fun in the end.
Well, one car that's really come on in the past 2 years is owned by this man here, one of our 2 quickest Supras in the country. You've got a bit of a background in car racing and visited Santa Pod when you were a child, I believe.
That's right, yeah. Used to come years ago with my dad, watching him, and as I say, it's pretty much in the blood, and just pretty much built up from there, Love the old Jap cars. Just great fun, mate, just great fun.
Well, I remember the 1,000 horsepower from a couple of years ago, but you had great difficulties getting that power down. The car now looks exterior like a traditional drag car, and I had made the assumption that you'd gone down the same route as D Ireland. You'd had the back end, they call it back halving it with the 4-bar suspension and 9-inch rear axle, but you've stuck pretty much with the standard Supra layout.
Standard rear end, limited slip diff, that's pretty much it really. The way we've played with it is keeping it in standard form, using the car afterwards back on the road, so we decided to get rid of it. It's not just a drag car, I know it's a lot of weight, it's got potential, and we just take the bits out of it as we go along really. But no, the rear end, a lot to keep the rear end as it is. I know the car's got potential, running low 8 seconds, and we're just playing along really.
What is the secret then with that standard Supra setup that so many other people are out there? They're probably running big rims and low profiles. They're never going to get the power down. Yeah. Is it just down to your tyre choice so you can get the back end to squat and pull away through the 60 foot?
Power. Lower the power off the line. That's why my 60 foots ain't that brilliant, but we just build on it, run a bit more boost at a time. But it's really the power. I mean, that's why you shoot the rear ends. Too much power. If it grips, digs in well, it's going to go bang. So I've done it
a few times.
Just a few times, yeah. We've done gearboxes, we've done engines. It's gone on from there really. So it's been a learning process, and it's been expensive, but it's been it's been good. We're learning from it, progressed, moved along.
Well, the big news, of course, just last weekend at the Ultimate Street Car, which is not an event traditionally associated with running personal bests. There's an awful lot of street cars up and down, chopping up a surface. Yeah. But you ran that magical 8. How did it feel?
It felt good actually. It was like we've actually got there now. We're getting there. It felt quite good. It was a very, very hot day. The track was brilliant. I think a lot of it I put down the track as well. Traction with big horsepower cars makes a lot of difference. It really does.
Well, you're back now in competition. The HKS Drag Series is getting to be quite a serious competition. There's a lot of kudos attached to this event. It's the 3rd one now. We've got the finals coming up. We've got a whole mix of new cars and a couple of drag-specific cars appearing now, which is throwing the cat amongst the pigeons. But you're there. You're up amongst the big boys now.
That's right. Yeah, it's good. Small business, UK. British-built car, which I'd love. I've got put on the side of the car. British-built car. We haven't imported it from Japan, and it's running loads of horsepower. I think a lot of it, at the end of the day, it's okay having the horsepower, but it's getting the setup right. And that's what we're learning. We're still playing. I think everybody does.
Well, whilst all our drivers were busy tinkering in the pits, the track was opened up for another session of Run What You Brung. And then, shortly before this qualifying session, the crew were out there fully prepping the track once again. Wow, that's certainly heading the right way there, a 10.93. Well, here's Ian Worrell in the rogue-backed MR2, and he was one of the few that rose to the top in the Run What You Brung sessions yesterday. So a special guest star, if you like, in the street class. Johnny Goodwin over there in the early RX-7, and James Wilday in the more modern variation. And it's great to see this man back, Clive Seddon. The man who took a back seat last season, but it's in the far lane. We need to check it out. Look at this, Leon Green on a real flyer. Well, D. Ireland was one of the first to go to a traditional drag racing builder and back half the car, and it made vast improvements. But we're going to go over to D now and say, D, once you got that back end done, things were going well, but you had the awful incident at the top end that totally obliterated something. Was it on your drivetrain, I think?
Yeah, it was the gearbox. We had a drive shaft vibration which caused the gearbox to shatter into a million pieces. So yeah, big fright.
Did it shake your confidence or just the budget?
No, just the budget. It takes more than that to scare me.
And that, I believe, was with the 6-speed manual, but you've since moved on to an automatic transmission.
Yeah, that's correct. We had the original Toyota gearbox. We're now on a Power Glide, which just for reliability and strength more than anything. And so far, it's not let us down. So touch wood.
Well, they're heading the right way. Now, because you were the first to take that step, to go to the back end treatment that was not only up to taking the power, but also adjustable so that you can get the power down the way you want to do it, affect the way that the tyres hit the ground. Having made that leap and start running down deep into the 9s, it looked like you could be the first into the 8s, and of course another Supra did it last week. Well, how did you feel when you heard that Leon had got into the 8s before you?
Happy for Leon, but gutted for me. It's just one of these things. Leon spent a lot of money and he deserves to get it. We'll get there eventually, just hopefully soon.
When you say hopefully soon, you've had the frustrations of the nitrous burp yesterday that I know obliterated the intercooler there, but that caused further damage.
Yeah, the intercooler then went right through the radiator, so it shattered the radiator, put a big hole in the radiator anyway. So we've done some temporary repairs and it seems to be holding together. Got slight overheating issues, but I think it's just half a radiator doing half a job rather than the whole radiator doing a proper job.
So is that affecting how much you can warm the car up before you come out there, or are you more worried about a long burnout, not being able to do that?
It's more up the top end that we're getting it. It's okay at the low revs and the burnout, it's fine. It's once we're up into second gear and everything's under load that it starts creeping up a little bit.
How's everything else holding together? Are you in a position this weekend to start tiling in a little bit more power? Are you looking for that 8 this weekend, or are you more worried about getting out there and doing well in the HKS Drag Series?
We want to finish well in the championship, so obviously we don't want to blow it, but we're going full power this run. See what happens.
The big news in the HKS Drag Series is the fact that a couple of the teams have gone over to chassis builders from the normal world of drag racing and got their cars modified more along the lines of traditional British drag racing machines. And there's one guy who went one stage further than that and took a full door slammer car and put a Jap engine into it. And here he is Steve Whittaker. Your machine most recently has raced in super modified door slammer class, where they go between about an 850 and a 750 normally. Tell us about this engine you've got and what you eventually plan on doing with this amazing Mark III Supra.
Well, we really do hope to run 7s with it. I was hoping to keep it a secret that it'd run in super modified, so you've let that one out of the bag, but thanks for that. Yeah, the car was Steve Rawlings' car, and we had the opportunity last year when he looked at going to a new car or even into Pro Modified of buying this rolling chassis. And with the stuff we'd learnt on the road car, the DJ Craig Red Supra that we ran last year and the year before, we said, well, we know we can build an engine that will make similar horsepower. We know the car's already run sort of low 8s and into a 7, in fact. So we thought we'd put the two together and see if we could run up there with the big boys. And yeah, it's worked well. We've chuffed as anything today because we ran 860 straight into the 8s from a 920 yesterday, and pleased as punch. It's been a great day.
Are you pleased that you went out and bought a proven package rather than start from scratch and having a chassis and body style built to the way you wanted? You know, have you made a compromise in terms of the speed in which you can get up to this level, or was it a budgetary thinkings, or did the opportunity just present itself? I'm just intrigued as to see why you went this particular route.
It was kind of both of those, actually. We were looking at obviously modifying the red car, the DJ Craig car, to run in the Pro Series. We'd scraped a 10-1 with sort of traction problems, and knew we couldn't go much further with the car without spending a lot of money on it, or doing a conversion like these done with the rear end. So we then sort of thought about building another car or bringing another car in, and it was kind of then that we started having the conversation about, well, perhaps there'd be something to buy. And it was literally luck of the draw. I was talking to John Webster about, you know, the costs of rear end in our car, and he said, well, did I know that Steve Rawlins was selling this car? And we jumped at the chance, and I've known Steve a couple of years, and we phoned him up and haggled for 3 months until he got desperate for parts, and then I bought it. But it's really the only way we could run this. You know, I mean, Excess Power have been really helpful. They've supplied lots of parts for us. They've sponsored all the shipping of parts and that sort of thing. And Sussex Performance have come on board with the tuning. So we're doing the whole thing really, not quite on a shoestring, but certainly on a privateer budget.
Well, one of the big advantages with having a machine like this is the fact that you can go with the automatic transmission and the back axle, which is virtually indestructible. Was that another part of the conscious decision? We've seen other cars, for instance, both the Evos, Seddon smashed so many gearboxes up 2 seasons ago, and we've seen poor old Simon Norris this year, the 3rd time he's come out for the HKS Drag Series, and the 3rd time he's broken a gearbox. Was that something that you were worried about with the old Supra?
Yeah, I mean, you really have to feel sorry for those guys. They're pushing everything to the limit, and they're sort of limited with how much they can change. But we had the opportunity here to go a whole different route. I mean, the car had been set up originally for a power glide, although it ended up life with a Lenco. So that was the obvious choice for us to go to, and we happened to be in the right place at the right time yet again. And Ian Marshall had a glide for sale, and we jumped at the chance. So it was already a built motor, a built engine, and a built gearbox. So everything should work well. And as I said earlier, 1 shift for me is enough.
I mentioned earlier about a trans brake. This is an automatic gearbox, and what a trans brake does is lock up first gear and reverse gear together, and when he lets go of the button, reverse gear goes out, it's in first gear and gone, and he can concentrate on steering because there's just 1 shift to do. But a car that's got a whole lot more shifts to do is this. Running modern drag racing technology, it's got an air shifter on board, but it has to go through 5 shifts. Well, another one of our drivers who's taken a big step up in terms of technology and chassis design is John Bradshaw. Now, John's been around for a couple of seasons, and it's essentially still the same car, John, yeah?
It is, yeah. It's basically last year's car with a different back half and some nifty revisions that were needed.
Okay, so along with many of the other drivers, you've now gone to a UK chassis builder to build a drag-specific roll cage, and it's not just a roll cage because of the way it's tied in everywhere else. It turns the car into more of a chassis car.
It does, yeah. We're still learning about the chassis now, but certainly in terms of stability and consistently, even though we've only had 3 power runs, we can already see there's a huge difference over last year.
So Mr. Robinson, I presume, has gone with a Ford 9-inch and a 4-bar. Is that the back end you've got?
Yeah, and he's gone with his traditional bits that he knows work well.
Well, they do work well, they're bulletproof, but possibly more importantly is the fact that you can adjust them to suit the track and put power in, take it out as necessary. The adjustability of the rear suspension is the big thing. And because you've gone that route, it does allow a certain more freedom in the gearbox area. You don't have to stick with the Jap stuff. Have you gone with a glide or something like that?
We've basically gone with an air shifter gearbox now that we thought we'd try for this year. And again, benefits being able to change at full throttle compared to last year with a bog standard gearbox.
And no worries about braking?
Not yet.
I say that confidently, of course. You had a private test day. You and a lot of friends with Jack Performance Machines came along just last Monday, the day after the Ultimate Street Car. Yep. Things went rather disastrously wrong for several of the drivers. For you, engine obliteration, I believe.
Obliteration, basically one of those unforeseen things with a brand new car. The clutch and crank, slight misbalance between the two, and yeah, hole in the side of the block. But rather than give up and go home and cry, we thought, well, we'll do what we can, and 10 days later we're back.
Okay, now that either involves a lot of budget or a lot of blagging, so it was Mr. Passingham involved somewhere here?
Mr. Passingham has been Santa Claus very early in the year.
So here we have the qualifying list for the three classes then. Steve Whittaker takes second place in the Pro class. John Bradshaw heading the lot. There's Johnny Goodwin in his early RX-7. Nice big burnout for him. Very distinctive noise that car makes. And in a rematch of that last qualifying session, he's up against James Wilday. And it's James Wilday who is powering on down the track. It does look like Johnny's making a comeback, but he's left it way too late.
Running through with his personal, but it does not matter. That RX powers through the top end.
Here is Adrian Smith up against Steve Mann. Oh no, Steve Mann's engine just bogging down through the 60 foot. It looks like problems for Adrian there, around about the 330 foot mark, but it's irrelevant. He's going to get to the other end first. Takes the win with a very off pace 12.10. Oh, Johnny McEwen comes forward in the endless backed machine. And Worrell, look at this. He got promoted from the ranks of Run What You Brung, and he's on a flyer.
Oh, what a weekend for him. Look at that. Amazing.
And he takes the win. Here's the other McEwen. And he should have been facing Holmes in that really rapid little white Pulsar from Fusion Motorsport, but sadly didn't make it to the line. So Robert takes the automatic win. And moving into front wheel drive then, there's Scott Whitelaw burning out. He's facing off against Peter Cattell, who's already patiently waiting to go into stage. Well, at the start line there wasn't much in it, but Scott Whitelaw's extra power meaning the car can pull ahead. Takes the win with an 11.13 at 124 miles per hour. So here comes Ian Page in the little 100 SX. Up against Wesley King. He cuts a very good light there. Leads by about a car's length, and it doesn't like Wesley can come back at him. He's trying as best as he can, but he's just not catching him. And it is Ian Page who takes the win with a 12.56. Well, we should be seeing a battle of the top Civic tuners here. Ooh, that's a naughty thing to do, folks. You do not touch a car whilst it's in the burnout. You can get your driver disqualified. But sadly, Paul Jones from TDI North does not make it to the line, leaving Guy Chamberlain to solo through. Oh, something happened there. Oh, he's out of shape. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. This was pretty nasty. The ambulance goes up as a precautionary measure. We swap to John Angel's view. Because he caught this moment, you can see him catch it, catch it. He's almost got it straight, then it does a complete 360 and bangs into the wall. Oh, what a moment. The good news is the driver is A-OK, but the car is sadly bruised. Well, we up the pace after that dramatic incident. We're into Pro, and we've got the Supra battle. The Ireland, Leon Green. Leon was the first into the 8D, so desperate to get there. And it's his quick, look at that, side-by-side 8s. Absolutely amazing.
And then 896, 155.
Steve Geary's car doing that strange little hop and bounce down there in the burnout. He should have been up against John Bradshaw, but sadly no sign of the man. Geary left the solo through. Oof, a huge pop there. I think it was probably an issue with the cold tool. Dear Bob Day's looking up there. We've had a few oil downs this weekend. None of the crew looking very happy, but nothing too serious. Steve Whittaker faces off against Clive Seddon. You can see him gesticulating to his crewman there to get out of the way. He was happy with the burnout. Clive, no stranger to the winner's circle, and he's used to having the most power on track, but he's been overtaken. And look at Whittaker on a real flyer here. Taking the win with an 8.53 at 163 miles per hour. Well, we had excitement. We had a first 8 for D Ireland. We had the drama of this horrible crash. We're just going to have to catch up with the man himself and find out exactly what happened. But in the meantime, there's somebody else we simply have to talk to. Well, a representative of HKS, the Japanese performance company that's backing this drag series, is Masaya Yomeda. Koichi now, Maz.
Konnichiwa.
I'm fortunate in that I know you from other Japanese influenced motorsports that we both work at, but of course you're a big part of the HKS Europe setup. Can you take me through the process that got HKS involved with this drag series?
Yes, of course. I mean, HKS has been synonymous with drag racing, especially in HKS headquarters in Japan. They've been very much a part of the backing of that. Big power equals HKS in Japan, and it was just a natural thing to bring that to Europe as well, to back the drag racing. It's very easy to see our performance parts producing good power and therefore good times on the drag strip, so it's a very direct way of showing how great our stuff really is.
Well, there's a couple of cars that have run quite big impressive numbers out on the track have run HKS parts. The Sumo power machine carries some of your parts in there, most notably possibly the gearbox, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, the entire engine and gearbox setup is all HKS products. Our HKS Drag engine from the GTRs, as used on the HKS Japan car as well. That's been down into the 7, so hopefully Andy will be there as well. And then our air shifter box as well seems to be the choice of most.
Well, particularly at the top end, and I know that's a huge investment for those particular engines, but it's not just the high-end stuff that HKS are involved with, it's pretty much every level with Japanese performance.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not, we're trying to move away from just Japanese performance now, but obviously the big tie-up is there with the Japanese stuff. So from basic things, if you've just got a brand new car and you want to add a few bits and pieces to it, then there's no problem. We can cater to that. If you're after a big power project, we can do that as well. We're particularly excited at the moment. We've got a lot of new cars that are coming onto the market at the moment, Japanese cars, and we're looking to do a lot of R&D and producing some good stuff for it in the near future.
So we move into the semi-finals of the front-wheel drive class. Scott Whitelaw closest to us, and Ian Page in the far lane. And Ian Page did exactly the right thing by getting the drop at the start line. He got the lead, but it looks like Whitelaw's going to drive around him at the top end. Wow, how smashed up is this? It's good to see the driver, Guy Chamberlain, all in one piece. There's no way he's going to be able to make a run down the track, but as he had a bye in his semi-final, the crew quite rightly have allowed him to stage and break the beams just to take the points. Well, next up, just how happy is the Rogue Motorsport man down there? Mr. Worrell making it through the semi-finals on his first ever go at proper drag racing. It's so close, and he gets pipped on the top end. James just driving around him in the last few metres. Adrian Smith up against Robert McEwen, and Robert's got the jump on the more experienced Adrian, but he's powering on back down with the Fensport Corolla, and he does indeed drive around him at the top. We move on to our pro class. These burnouts are just getting longer and longer for the pro cars. D Ireland has an 8-second run under his belt now, but Steve Whittaker's had a few and a bit quicker, and this is pretty darn close. But it is Whittaker who takes the win at the top end with an 8.2, and you can see just how happy the crew are there. Steve Geary has no opposition, it's a bye, he just breaks the beams for the points. In the second round, there was going to be a bye in the semi-finals. You were right through to the finals. All you had to do was break the beams on that run where Paul should have been. You've already run some good strong 10s this weekend, and something very bizarre, spectacular and quite frightening happened. Take us through that run.
That's right. Even though it was a bye run, we are chasing that European record, so we did put quite a large setting in the car, and it come off the line very well, 1.7 in a 60 foot, which is typically quick enough to go quicker than we've gone before. But at the 1,000 foot mark, we think the bonnet pins failed. The bonnet came up, shattered the windscreen, and caused us to go into a slide. Managed to keep hold of it for a good couple of drifts left and right. Eventually banged it into the wall. No damage to myself, luckily, which is the main thing, but the car is a little bit worse for wear.
Well, two of these beautiful carbon fibre panels are totally obliterated. The front screen is still in place, being laminated. It's shattered, but still there. The back screen toughened, disintegrated. That's all been swept up. Was it a terrifying experience? For me, looking down on it, it looked like you'd saved it at least twice, and then at the last minute, just whacked into the wall.
It was a terrifying experience. The best way I can describe it is like doing 120 miles an hour and then shutting your eyes. That is exactly what it felt like. Initially we thought the motor had blown and it was oil on the screen, but at the end of the day, whatever it was, we couldn't see a thing, So just steering it left and right to try and keep hold of it, and I could see the walls left and right from the side windows, and was managing to just keep it away from them, but eventually it did put the back end of the car into the left-hand wall.
Well, it's obviously an upset with a new car, but I'm guessing it's relatively superficial. The actual, the engine, the drivetrain, the axles, the tyres, wheels, everything seems to have survived quite well, yeah?
Yeah, it is. It's purely cosmetic. It looks a bit worse for wear, but yeah, there's no structural damage to the car at all.
Well, because you had that bye round in the semi-final, the safety people here said, well, no, you're fine. You were allowed to go up and stage because there was nobody in the other lane and break the beams to get the points there. You're in that same situation for the final. What's going to happen? Are you going to be able to do that again?
Yeah, we're going to do exactly the same again. However, the weekend goes to Scott Whitelaw with his new setup. He's run 11-1 already today, and to be honest, it would have been a tough race even if I was fit, but yeah, we'll just stage the car and just take the points, really.
Well, very sportsmanlike words from Guy Chamberlain there, and obviously he just breaks the beams for the points. There's no way he's going to attempt to go up track with that smashed windscreen, leaving Scott Whitelaw to take the easy win. Obviously we are in the finals now, and this will be the finals of the street class. Adrian Smith faces off against James Wilday. Well, James gets the drop there. Oh, but problems for him. I think that might well be transmission woes. Adrian Smith on a flyer. And obviously takes the win at the top end with a 10.72. We're into the pro final now, and Steve Geary faces off against Steve Whittaker. Mr. Geary's going to have to cut one heck of a good light here. In fact, the car does not move at all. Maybe he was broken and was just staging for points. Remember, we saw that big puff come from it on the last pass. This is a quick one, though. Well, just before we have a look at the points after round 3, let's see the drivers getting their trophies. And one final look at that horrendous nitrous burp that cost D Ireland a whole night of work. We're at the HKS Drag Racing Series finals. There's been 4 rounds of tough competition right through the year. The finals are being held at the Jap Show finale here at Santa Pod. It's been an amazing year. Drama, breakages and records along the way. We're going to start off by having a look at what happened yesterday in the Run What You Brung session. Well, there's been talk in the Whittaker camp of a killer tune going into the machine. Maybe that's the one going in now. Looks like Johnny Goodwin's found a bit more power as well. And is D going to have an easier weekend after last time out? That nitrous explosion that blew the intercooler that took out part of the radiator. He's got to be hoping for an easier run. Of course, it did result in his first ever 8-second runs. But this is not looking too fantastic. Normally it'd be flying at this stage. No, I wonder if there's anything serious happened. Steve Whittaker getting very sideways. I think that they have got the killer tune. The car absolutely hooting much earlier on in the track. This is amazing. Oh, so close to a 7, but look at that, an 8.01 at 168 miles per hour. And there's D Ireland, car back on the transporter. He's blown a head gasket, and interestingly, Tim Webster there shooting the breeze. He's not even here with his car. So, on to Sunday morning then. It's Jap Show finale proper. After all the test runs in yesterday's test and tune, there are a few teams making some rather extravagant claims. Well, one man I speak to on a regular basis, both through his roles as a crewman on his father's Pro Modified car and as crew chief on a street legal 8-second car, is Luke Robinson. But Luke, this is something totally new for you, I think. Your father, Andy Robinson Race Cars, put this car together, this whole package for John Bradshaw earlier on this year. Quite a ramped up build on it as well to get it ready to come out to play. How on earth does running with this kind of setup compare with the other machines you're used to working with?
Well, as far as suspension setup goes, it's very similar to any of the other pro cars we build. The engine side of things is totally different, but we haven't been involved in the engine side of things. That's been down to GTR. They've built the engine, done all the management systems and everything like that. But as far as chassis work goes, it's very similar to all the other cars we've built. There's nothing, special about it. It's a back half car, a braced front end. It's still got steel bodywork on it. So, it's just standard drag racing stuff.
That's standard drag racing stuff, but very much in the door slammer way, because I think it's the important thing to point out. Even though it looks like a full-on chassis car, it's still essentially got all its inner wings, front and back. You've only literally taken enough sheet metal out to get in the drag racing components.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's actually got some of the original floor pan in the car. I mean, we've cut a lot of it away to get access to the clutch and the gearbox, but some of the original floors there, the original steel roof, rear quarters, they're all there. The original inner wings are there. Part of the bulkhead is still there. It's very similar to a stateside Outlaw 10.5 car in the way it's constructed. Then, of course, it's got the American 9-inch forward axle with a full strain setup, 4-link rear suspension, strain top.
That obviously is for the adjustability. I'm just looking down there now. I can see a row of solenoids. What are we looking at in terms of gearbox here?
Well, that's actually an air-shifted Jericho transmission, which is very similar to what the pro stock cars use. So it's a 5-speed air-shift twin lay shaft gearbox, that is, and it's an Ace Racing clutch. That's a triple plate, fully adjustable clutch, very similar to what we use in the pro mod car, but smaller.
There's everything in there to get the power from the engine down onto the back end. I know this is a whole new area for John. How's he coping as a driver with all this chassis setup?
He's learning. He's not scared of it, that's for sure. And every time he makes a run, he learns something. And he's done very few passes in the car, but he's a very capable driver, so I've no doubt by the end of today he'll be well up to speed with it.
Excellent stuff, and hopefully looking for the sevens. His confidence is not in doubt. The package is not in doubt. It's just getting it all together at the right time. And will this be the right time? Well, the car launches well, seems to bog, and it's going to a hideous misfire. John Bradshaw unfortunately having to abort this run. Scott Whitelaw in his first qualifier alongside Ian Page, who has shown such great form recently. And speaking of great form, look at that, a 10.86. And Chris Impey seems to have come from nowhere with this amazing machine. You can see the way the car digs in on the start line, the front end coming up, he's making huge amounts of power. Mick Begley just hitting the rev limiter there in second gear. The car seems clean at the top end.
Well, a 10.6 Begley anyway.
Good to see Kev Huntley back out in the MV Performance Supra. That thing really surging on through. Good gear changes too. Leon Green wasn't going to hang around on the start line. Whoa, a huge wobble at the finish line, but look at that time. John, the machine really has done fantastic things for you since it blew its engine up. Everything's gone very, very well. We didn't see you get here too early this morning. Any issues?
No, just literally working the midnight oil last night, fitting a dry sump system, which was vital after obviously bearings in the last competition blowing the competition before, so hopefully now some reliability starting to come back into play again.
Reliability and security, I guess, is the most important thing. We've seen you go deep into the eights. Have you any particular personal goals for this weekend?
Regardless of the competition, we want to go full out afterwards. End of the year, so we're literally going to take the boost controller off and let the boost go to whatever it's going to go to. So a 7 would be nice.
Wow. A 7 would be nice, too darn right. I was not expecting him to come out with a statement like that. Leon, you're out on your Todd as far as two-tone Supras go this weekend. Dee sadly did a head gasket yesterday. We know that you were both neck and neck, 8.6s, 8.7s last time out, round 3. Any personal goals for yourself for today?
8-second dead is what we want. That's what we wanted all year, so we're going to try for it. Just don't want to blow anything. Well, don't care actually if it's engine, but we're going to end up probably blowing a diff, so we've got a spare one in the back of here. So.
Okay, so again, it's personal goals, low ET. You're not too bothered about the competition itself today, no?
No, not really. No. We just it's just fun. We're up against some quick cars, and just just gives us something to work for, towards next year. So we're looking for 7s next year.
This is all pretty hardcore stuff, folks. I've just got 2 statements I was not expecting to hear. The competition is blown open today in terms of how they're going to go through the races themselves. They're just looking for personal best right through. It's going to be amazing.
Did that straight away.
Well, all of our crew's out with the laptops, even the polishing mops in a few places. But there's one crew who are out doing some practice laps, and that's Jangir Hussain with the MIG Performance Back machine. They're looking to come out in HKS Drag Series next season. Oh, something falling off the car there. It's got bags of power. Oh, a bit of a moment at the top end there, exactly where Leon Green had issues. Well, I'm here with Chris Impey, who's been out and about with his RX for quite a while, but by goodness, he's been doing some stunning things today. Chris, I can see you've got a roll cage that looks as though it's FIA spec. Have you got one of the traditional drag racing chassis builders?
Yeah, so we went to Webster Racing, obviously because they're reputable in that sort of department, and got them to sort out the cage for us.
Okay, well that's nice to know that you're going to be safe, and quite often you find with a car, once you've got a cage in there, it actually tightens up the body shell and enables you to launch a lot better. But you can't just put these incredible personal bests, I think you said 4 this weekend, down to that, so something been happening in the engine department too.
Well, it's been a lot down to Matt with his tuning and watching the log runs and just making sure everything hooks up properly.
Okay, now from what you were saying earlier, you're the stig on the wallet, so we'll speak to the engineering department now. Matt, how have you turned this machine round? First off, what is this engine configuration?
It's a Mazda 13B from a conventional FD 3S, and we street ported the primary intakes and bridge ported the secondary intakes, and that was all done at RX Motors down in Dorset. It's got a turbo from Japan, an HKS T51 unit. That's performed outstandingly, and like all the other HKS products that we got. Got their ignition amp as well, that keeps the spark under full control. Got a SARD fuel rail with 4 1000cc injectors, massive great intercooler made by Forge Motorsport, and all the suitable coolant to go with it. The only problem we've got, we're running a Australian ECU, a Microtech engine management system, and that maxes out at 25 psi, and that's where we're at. So any further and we'll go off the end of the map. So I'd like to run a bit more boost, only a touch, but we're trying to work out how to keep it just on the 10-second mark, because if we drop into the 9s, obviously we'll fall out of the street class. So it's quite strange to try and make a car go slower, but I have been trying to tune it that way.
Okay, well, it's interesting stuff. And yet another driver and team package, however you want to call it, are running personal bests this weekend. Okay, we're going to have a quick word now with Mick Begley, a man who was round in Run What You Brung, running his old Q ship for many, many years, and then decided to step up to the mark in the HKS Drag Series. Got the new machine here, the perfect touchback machine. Mick, how's your season been so far?
It's not been too bad. We've been doing a lot of development with the car recently. We've just got it right now. We've got to put a brand new engine in Wednesday. Well, I haven't slept for 3 days actually. Got it mapped by 4:30 this morning. We come this morning, we did one run and we snapped both drive shafts clean in half. So we're borrowing them off another car now, putting them back on, so it's good, looking good.
Okay, now just as we were walking over to your pit, you were getting one of our crew to check with the race director what happens if you run a 9 in the eliminations. Of course, it's automatic disqualification, so you're quite confident of being able to run into the 9s today?
Yeah, it will definitely get these drive shafts in, it will do a 9, and I will do the 9 and I will be disqualified. Simple as that.
Okay, fair enough. It seems to be the theme of the weekend now. Going into next season, any big plans?
Well, this is what it's all about now. We've put the new engine in, we've got it all last night. We couldn't read what power it was making because it was just spinning the dyno, so it was just pure savage.
Okay, pure savage. Concern, smiles, almost certainly an automatic disqualification in competition. Yet again, these guys are really gunning for it. Well, I've just grabbed Johnny McKeown. You have to pronounce that as though it's got a W in it, and I hope I've got it right. We'll get confirmation at the moment. He's done very well through the season. In fact, Johnny, I think at the moment you're leading the championship.
Leading the championship by 70 points or something like that. Won first round at the PTM show at the start of the year. Pretty easy round. There was a lot of breakages and rotor stock then. I did bad at rotor stock, bad start in the first eliminator and was put out, but got good qualifying points in that. So, but some of the boys are very close to me, so I have to be on my toes. Yeah.
Okay, you've got to be on your toes. The car's making loads of power. A couple of 9-second runs in practice yesterday and in the qualifier this morning as well. The car's really hooking up well. But of course, in the competition in the street class, if you run quicker than a 10.0, then you'll knock yourself out. Are you having to lift at the top end?
Yeah, that's me game plan anyway. If it feels like a 9, I'll lift off if I'm ahead. Has to be done to stay in the street class, I suppose, yeah. Bit frustrating, very frustrating actually, yeah. So, see what happens.
But you're going to play it straight, yeah?
Oh yeah, play it straight all the way, yeah.
So we're ready for our first round of eliminations, and in the front wheel drive class our number 1 qualifier with that stunning 10.86 run earlier, it is of course Scott Whitelaw, getting through to the next round the easy way in more ways than one. A very off-pace 13-second Sunday afternoon drive. Peter Cattell up against Wesley King then. Well, there wasn't much in it until the gear change there. Peter just dropped back but it looks like he's making a top-end charge. So close, but it is Wesley King who takes the win.
Wow, look at that.
Well, Paul Jones has been running the numbers this season, but he's not had a great deal of luck in eliminations. A few breakages along the way. Ian Page got the drop there, but instantly spun the front wheels. He's still out in front. And oh, look at that. More bad luck for Paul Jones. The car just coasting on through, and Ian Page smiling all the way to the finish line. Well, RX Motors seem to have done a fantastic job on Chris Impey's car. It's been hooking up so strong, but interestingly, no burnout there. And he's taking it nice and steady. Has been having issues with gear selection. We saw him just before this round with a can of oil out on the gear shift. Anyway, we move on. Worrell over there. Well, it looks like big problems for him, and Adrian Smith cruising now to the inevitable win.
When they came to the line, now Adrian Smith.
We've not seen a great deal of George Beavers this year from DCY cars. He's been concentrating on time attack. And in fact, there's a time attack sticker on the car in the other lane. That is Shane Smith. Well, we're not going to see a great deal more of Shane either, because the DCY car powers on through at the top end and takes the win with a 10.51. There's another man we would have expected to see more of this year. It's Gary Passingham from GT Art. It's up against Kev Huntley, who sadly we've not seen as much as we were hoping for, but he's powering on down. A late charge from Passingham, but it is Kevin Huntley we'll be seeing in the next round. So the McEwens face up against each other. Remember, no relation. They might be running white cars, but they're two very different drivers. And it is Johnny, the more familiar McEwen, who is in the lead and takes the win at the top end with a 10.58. Vincent Graham in the blue Evo faces off against David Grenard in the silver Skyline. Well, the Skyline definitely got the jump, but then something went wrong. It bogged down. It looks like Graham's got this one in the bag. Oh, maybe not. A late charge there from the Skyline, but he's left it too late. And it's Vincent who takes the win. David Malcolm with backing from GT Art there in this glorious blue machine, up against Mick Begley in the perfect touch wagon. Well, unusually, Mick, the more experienced man out on the track, left it a little late on the start line. It's neck and neck, but I think Mick's just about squeezed it and takes the win at the top end.
So luckily, he doesn't do what he wanted to, but
And we move into the pro class then. Hardly surprising that this man was the #1 qualifier. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, that's not looking so good. That wonderful 8-0 run yesterday, has it damaged the motor? And Bradshaw then. Nice burnout, he faces off against Mosley.
two generations of drag racing gurus out.
Well, Bradshaw looked like he'd got the wonderful start. But sadly not. You probably saw the red on the start line. He will get a time and speed of 9.80, but it's irrelevant. He threw it all away. And Mosley, the new man, takes the win. Leon Green faces off against Gary Gooding in the GA Racing RX-7, another new name, but look at this car, look at the stance in the cage. This is a full-on machine, make no mistake. We're going to have to keep an eye out on that one, but sadly not for the rest of today because Leon is way out in front. Okay, no race report would be complete without catching up with the man Adrian Smith. He's an all-rounder. The machine competes in time attack and has been a regular now in the various forms of the racing we have at the JAP events for quite a while, and was looking quite promising for the HKS Drag Series. I have to ask, how are you in the championships at the moment?
Second at the moment, but it's been a funny year. We broke a gearbox in the first round, rained on the second round, same for everyone. Won the third round, and still running at the moment, so fingers crossed.
So you're not far behind Johnny, I believe?
I've heard that Johnny's done a 10.5 or 10.6, so I think we're very close, I think.
Yeah, actually, mate, I hate to tell you, but he's been down into the nines as well. But I mean, in terms of points, do you need him to go out and go all the way to the final for yourself?
That'd be nice if the pair of us were in the final, wouldn't it? That'd be the answer, wouldn't it? That'd be fun.
Now, on one of your runs earlier, we see the car cough and splutter just past the 60 foot. You came to a stop about 100, 150 foot. I was guessing you'd done a diff. Was I right or wrong?
Broke the near side front drive shaft, so then it just loses drive to all wheels, couldn't go any further, so just pulled it off so we didn't make any oil on the track.
Okay, well, that's a sportsman-like thing to do, and with the amount of oil we've had on the track, I'm sure our crew were very relieved. But the big news is you, along with Andy Barnes and a few other machines, Clive Seddon, you're all packing your cars up. They're going off to Japan. I believe it's going on a container later on this week?
Yeah, Thursday morning, so we're going to be very busy. Back to the workshop tonight, get it stripped down. We're probably going to put a new clutch and also check the gearbox out, check that. It's a long way to go without giving the car a thorough check.
Well, that's okay as long as you don't break anything. The thing is, you were running 10.6s earlier, so you're not taking it steady today. The championship obviously means something to you.
Well, you've got to try for everything, haven't you? There's no point going slow. You can't go slow in this game, so you've got to try your best.
Well, you can't go slow in a straight line or round corners, but I should point out that all those cars, most of them that you're seeing out on track here drag racing, are going to Japan to take part in the time attack. And Chris Impey should have been facing off against Steve Mann, but no sign of him. Now that's an interesting thing. With the big burnout, it was looking like Chris was going to go for a full run rather than just break the beams. But maybe he broke something there. Johnny McEwen up against Vincent Graham then, and it's experience showing here as the Irishman gets away clean and powers on down, and the Evo struggled in the 60 foot, made a recovery, nowhere near what he needed to. So George Beavers will be facing off against this man, Kev Huntley, in the MV machine. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, he was asleep on the line. George Beavers powering on down. We know that Kev's got top end speed, but this is one heck of a job to try and do. And he can't do it. It's George Beavers who takes the win with a 10.51. Mick Begley up against Adrian Smith. Everything's been going Adrian's way today. He's away clean. But Begley, we know, has run down into the nines. 10.60's the quickest Adrian's done. It looks like he's catching there, but surely not. No, at the top end. It is the perfect touch machine that takes the win. With all this fantastic racing going on, it's easy to forget that we're at the JAP show finale with show and shine and drifting and so many other things going on. So we'll have a quick look around some of the other things happening on site. Okay, quick guerrilla report. Steve Whittaker hasn't got long, about 15 minutes to get this car prepped, and it looks like they're still trying to get together the cold side. Steve, sorry to hassle you, man. I know you're busy, but is this going to work? Are you going to be able to keep the turbo cold side together?
It's going to hang together. We're just not sure what's going to happen with the misfire, etc. But we're going to try and do, and we're going to try and go.
So at the moment, you don't know whether the two are related or not?
No, we think there's an electrical problem. It's either a crank sensor or a cam sensor, something like that. But we're just taking the cold side off to get to the plugs, really.
Okay, well, I hope you can cure all your problems on the cold side and that misfire goes away. It was looking so promising yesterday, and it's been a very fraught day for the boys today. Fingers crossed. And the Rum Mocky Brung queues were moving on through as our track staff move the cars down. This is Jangir Hussain again out in the MIJ car. Done loads of runs. You can see the machine's got power.
Wow, big MPH in the top end.
And of course, any show at Santa Pod wouldn't be complete without a run or two from the Fire Force machine, who are desperately looking to get back into the fives that we saw at Jap Show 2 years ago.
Please. No, so close. 604.
So we move into our semi-finals, front-wheel drive class up first, and it's Wesley King up against Scott Whitelaw.
Definitely not Guy's car, apparently. Guy, you remember, had that time.
Well, Wesley must be praying for a breakage or a red light in the other lane. Scott has been on fire this weekend, setting new personal bests and on a mission for a European record.
Showing its way at the top end.
Well, he runs through that time with 11.03. Didn't have to try too hard to beat Wesley. Ian Page smiling his way through to the final. Why? Well, he came up against a bye in the semis. Automatically through. As is Mick Begley. And he's taking it really steady. George Beavers doing a slightly longer than normal burnout there. Wants to give himself the best possible chance against Johnny McEwen, and he drops a light on Johnny, and he's out in front. Whoa, this is a really close race. Impossible to call, and at the top end, Johnny just about does it.
Look at that, the 10.34 against
the Byes turning up all over the place. And Leon Green will be pleased to see this one. The car digging in perfectly. This is a textbook run for him. Or at least it was. A misfire or a slip gear around about the 8th there. Hurt the ET, but it was irrelevant. He's automatically through. Well, Mosley faces off against Whittaker. Steve, remember, ran that 8-0 yesterday to reset the European record. Well, if he can back it up. But has had problems ever since. Oh, speaking of problems, Mosley having to give up there. How frustrating for him, because Whittaker popping and banging around about the 8th mile yet again. Well, popping and banging he might have been. It might only have been a 10.90, but that's good enough to see him through to the final. Well, there are some splendid full-on pro cars around this weekend. You could spend hundreds of thousands of pounds and go fast in a Jap car if you want. Or you could pop along to an auction, see something you fancy and spend 400 quid. 100 NX? Ian Page is your man. Ian, I know that you're really chuffed to have made it through to the final, and you see your whole effort here as keeping it real, keeping the street guys pleased that there's somebody going up against the big boys.
That's it. We feel we're representing the guys in the car park, perhaps the younger lads than myself, but young lads who want to go quick in something perhaps a bit older. It is possible. Spend the money in the right direction. We beat guys claiming to have lots and lots of horsepower this weekend, but it's got to be reliable horsepower, and I think we've spent the money in the right direction. We're here in the final. We don't think we're going to win, but he might break, and so that's what it's all about, keeping it real, like you say.
Well, it does happen that cars break. A lot of cars are broken this weekend. You know, they might well have 800 or 900 horsepower, but if they've got drive lines that aren't going to be up to the job, braking drive shafts, gearboxes going, you've got around about 370 horsepower, is it?
That's all, yeah, 370, reliable, and everything's hanging together at that. So that's all we're interested in.
It's a bit dodgy to say that it's not going to break now with one race to go. It doesn't really matter. It's the end of the season. I'll be giving it my best shot. But yeah, and the Nissan driveline is actually good. I think it may be better than the Hondas. They've spent their money on the engines, and perhaps they should have spent a bit more on the transmissions as well. So it's a continual battle, and that's what I like about the Jap series. It's still over here in its infancy, and I think that it lets people develop as it goes on. But we're seeing some splendid times this weekend with the pro stuff. And I've got this little fella here that's just done its first 125 mile an hour and a quarter mile. I don't think that's too bad, really.
I think it's very creditable indeed. There you go. You can compete at any level and still get through to the final. Well, Scott Whitelaw's always been one of our front runners in the class, but all of a sudden he's doing some really deep inroads into the 10. Scott, what do you put this down to? Aside of spending a bit more money, I guess.
Yeah, well, I'd like to say driving ability plays an important part, but obviously Guy Chamberlain and his team at CPL Racing have done a fantastic job in the car, putting it together, even working on it this week, managed to fit me in, fit the nitrous and stuff like that on it. So, I mean, that all adds up. Plus, he's been the tech, as his car's not ready, so he's just been, telling me, just drive the car, don't worry about anything, and, just go out there and do fast times.
Well, fast times you've been doing, a 1084 and a 1077 at the moment, I think your quickest runs?
Yeah, that's right, yeah, the 1077 puts us back top of the sort of Europe's fastest Honda, which was pretty good. Obviously we lost it to System R last weekend, so it's good to bounce straight back and take that record back again.
Okay, well, you got the final coming up, and I understand that you've possibly squeezing a bit more power out of it.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to run a bit more nitrous on it and see if we can maybe beat that 10.7 that we did on Saturday. If we get a good start, the power's there, and hopefully, we maybe see maybe a 10.5 or something like that. Maybe be a touch optimistic, but you never know.
Okay, well, a touch optimistic or not, it's going to be a fantastic final. We got the number one qualifier against the last qualifier. Ian Page really loving where he's got to with his little 100. Are you going to concentrate on getting the ET and the record, or are you going to actually try and play this as a race as well? Are you going to cut a good light?
Yeah, that's what I'm planning to do. Obviously, Ian's car's quite capable, and we need to try and win the race as well. That's sort of first and foremost. You want to win the race. That's what it's all about, really, going toe to toe with somebody, against the lights. But hopefully, be able to, get something, a better personal best as well at the same time.
Okay, well, we wish you the best of luck. I guess we're going to need you to get your suit on soon. It's coming up fairly soon. Well, right down to the wire, it's excitement all the way. Excitement indeed. This is Fujin. Andy Barnes from Sumo Power's amazing Skyline. Fujin is the Japanese god of the wind. He built this car for one reason only, to take the European four-wheel drive record. Let's see that from another angle. Look at that car digging, and I can confirm that this 840 backed up an earlier one. This is the new European record. Oh, John Bradshaw has cured the misfire, everyone, but sadly had to abort that run. Well, after those fun and games out of the way, we move on to the finals. Steve Whittaker looking very happy and relaxed. Leon pretending to look the same. And we move into our front wheel drive. Ian Page keeping it real. Scott Whitelaw looking for the European record backups. Well, Ian tried all he could, but of course we know how much power is in Scott's car this weekend, and they've upped it. He runs through with a 10.69. Look how happy Peter Cattell is. 137 miles an hour, but it's that 69 that's so important. So Mick Begley faces off. against Johnny McEwen. Both of them capable of running 9s. Bit of a burn down there, Johnny last to stage, but he's first out. Where is Mick Begley? He needs to make a charge right now. Here it comes, but I think he's left it too late. So close in this, the final. Wow, look at that. Mick Begley takes the win. And how fortunate was it that there was in-car footage of this run? There you can see the endless machine in the other lane, and here he comes. Powers on through just at the top end of the track. Leon Green, the car is still road legal. He still takes his family out in it occasionally, up against that awesome drag purpose-built machine of Steve Whittaker's, and it looks like Leon's going to take the win. There goes the pop bang from Steve Whittaker. Wow, what an amazing fairy tale end to Leon's season. He takes the win over Whittaker's killer machine. Okay, we've caught up with all our finalists. We'll go first to Scott Whitelaw. Scott, the 4th round, you've had a good season. How was it today?
Yeah, excellent. Everything from the word go from Saturday, everything went perfect. Just exactly how we planned it. Couldn't have, imagined a better finish to the year. Brilliant, awesome.
Wonderful stuff, and well done on setting the record as well. Move over to Mick Begley. Mick, hit and miss year, but it's all come good right at the finals. Your thoughts on the day?
Absolutely fantastic. Enjoyed every minute of it. I know my car's a 4-wheel drive car. It was in rear-wheel drive all day. I brought me transfer box. But the lads at Perfect Touch, who are my tuners, and that sorted it out for me. And it's all come forward now, and I slept for 4 days.
Well, you're looking good on it, sir, and it all came good, even though you were 2-wheel drive down. And, of course, onto our pro driver, Mr. Leon Green. Leon, you've got a big smile on your face most times, but certainly today.
Yeah, no, I have, mate. Yeah, thank you very much. No, went good, went well. Happy with the car, so back to the drawing board now for next year. But no, went okay, quite pleased with it. A few little hiccups, but we got there in the end.
Well, you have run quicker in the past, but you ran consistently today, and that's been the big thing with so many breakages. Anybody you want to thank?
All the lads that I employ, I suppose, really, and my family for putting up with me. Yeah.
Well, brilliant stuff. I know the family are a big part of your crew. Well, there we go. There's the finalists, all very, very happy. It's been an amazing season and a fraught but interesting and dramatic way to bring it to a close. So there we have it then, the championship points, the winners and the second places. In the front-wheel drive class, it's Scott Whitelaw with the CPL machine, 1,055 points. He's the only driver to have amassed over 1,000 points in the whole championship. Paul Jones took second place in the TDI North machine in his rookie year of driving at the pod. In the street class, it was Johnny McEwen in the endless skyline with 990 points. Took the win. It made all those long trips over from Ireland very worthwhile. Adrian Smith from Fensport took second place in what has been an incredibly busy year for the machine. It's been taking part in a circuit racing championship as well. Finally, our pro class. Steve Whittaker in the XS Powerback Toyota Supra, 730 points. He had so much to learn with this machine, both in terms of the setup and driving technique, and he was the champion. Finally, in second place, Leon Green from JPS Motorsport. It's a street legal car, and how wonderful is this? Occasionally gets used to take the family out. I'm Paul Venners. You've been watching the HKS Drag Series from quartermilehigh.com. And don't forget, keep an eye out for jackshow.com for all the updates and the hot news coming through for the 2008 HKS Drag Series.